like clothes. All I want is clothes. Some of you guys hope for good grades this year. Some of you guys hope for good grades. Some of you guys hope to make a sports team. Some of you guys hope your crush goes to camp. Hashtag crush at camp. Just saying, it could happen. Some of you guys hope for bigger things though. Some of you guys hope that your family, hey, will you guys bring it in real quick? Will you bring it in? Some of you guys hope that your family will stop fighting. Some of you guys hope that your friends will actually be good friends. Some of you guys hope that some of the issues going on in the world, like clean drinking water, would actually finally be taken care of. And here's what I believe more than anything, that before you can hope for something, you need to know what you're hoping in. Before you can hope for something to happen, for something to be accomplished, for something to happen in your life to come to fruition, first you need to know what you are hoping in. Let me tell it to you this way. When I was 18 years old, I had a car. It was a 1996 Chevy Cavalier. It was teal. So I had this teal car, and it was a piece of crap. It was a piece of crap car. And so I'm going on this road trip one day. My parents didn't know. That was my bad. I was driving to Eastern Washington, going to Leavenworth. Anybody been to Leavenworth before? Leavenworth is sweet, really good cheese. Now I'm lactose intolerant, so I can't do it, but it's sad. Anyways, I'm driving to Leavenworth. It's probably like 11 o'clock at night. I'm flying over the pass, and my goal right here, what I'm hoping for, I'm hoping to drive 115 miles an hour. That is my hope. Okay, which is not safe by any means. But I'm starting to go, and I hit 100. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. 101. 102. And this is what you need to know. What you hope for and what you hope in, you need to come together. Because I was like, okay, 102, 103. And then I forgot that I was hoping in a piece of crap car. I hit 108 miles an hour on this road. I was like, my car could not go straight. I was like swerving into the other lanes. I was like, no, don't hit me. And then I almost hit a deer. It was crazy. And there was just this moment where I was like, I could never hit 115 miles an hour in this piece of crap car. And here's what I believe. No matter the hopes that you have, no matter the dreams that you have, no matter the things that you want to happen in life, no matter how popular you want to be, how many sports teams you want to be on, how many friends you want to have, how many followers on Instagram, how old you want to be when you get your phone, if you have a phone, whatever is going on in your life, no matter what you're hoping for, if you're not hoping in Jesus, everything's going to fall short. Everything's going to fall short. So our big idea today is pretty simple, and we're going to get there in a second. But first, I want to talk about Christmas. Who's stoked about Christmas? Okay, that's like lame. You guys are like, sign. Who's stoked about Christmas? Okay. Can I tell you my favorite thing about Christmas? Christmas movies that come out on Christmas Day. Not Christmas movies. Like, I could care less about Christmas movies other than Elf, because Elf is fantastic. But on Christmas Day, there are always amazing movies that come out. And so in about like November, October, sometimes even as early as September, the trailers start to come out. Who loves a good movie trailer? Do you know what movie trailers came out this past couple weeks? Star Wars. He's stoked. Anyways, there are good movies coming out. Jurassic World is coming out. And so you can watch these Avengers? Oh, what came out? Pitch Perfect 2, Aka, awesome. And so you have all these things coming out. Here's why a movie trailer is cool. Here's why a movie trailer is cool. Because you're watching the movie trailer and you're like, this movie could be awesome. Like, because you're watching it and you're like, oh my gosh, what could that go? And you have all these hopes and these dreams about what this movie trailer could turn into, and you're like, oh my goodness. This could be the greatest thing in my entire life. And so you go to some movies and they are like the greatest thing in your entire life. I love Remember the Titans. Like, that movie lived up to it. But then there's other movies. And sometimes there's like trailers and you watch it like, this movie's gonna be awesome. Then you go to the movie and you're like, this movie is horrible. Like, the best part was the trailer. Have you ever seen that movie before? Have you ever seen that movie? Okay, there was a movie called Twilight. Ever seen it? Yeah. Best part was the trailer, and the trailer was awful. But there's another movie that came out when I was in 8th grade. Where are my 8th graders at here? Yeah. Okay. There's a movie. It was called The Village. Does anybody remember The Village? Anybody remember The Village? Okay, like my old people in the room? Oh, you're not old, but you're awesome. There's a movie called The Village, and it looked on the trailer like it was freaky, like it was the scariest thing in the entire world. And so I took my girlfriend, Alyssa, 8th grade girlfriend, Alyssa, and we went to the movies, and we're sitting there, and this is what I want. I wanted to get so scary that I'm allowed to go, what's up, girl? You know, that's what I wanted to do. That was my goal. I wanted to get so scared that I was like, Hey. And so that was my goal. And so we're watching it, and it's not scary yet, but I'm like, I want to put my arm around her. And so I grab my arm, and I go, and she's like, I'm like, and I'm waiting, I'm like, please movie, be scary, like the trailer said. And so there's another part, and it like starts to get a little scary. I'm like, and she's like, David? I'm like, yes, ma'am. And so I come back here, movie ends, I never get to put my arm around her because it never got scary, and she broke up with me right after that. How sad is that? Sometimes the things that you hope in, sometimes the things that you're hoping in, you're hoping for, fall flat. And sometimes there are these things that we're passionate about in life and we're watching and we want it to happen, but when it actually comes to fruition, we realize it wasn't as good as what we thought it could be. It wasn't what we wanted it to be. And so today we're talking about hope. And I believe that unless you hope in Jesus, everything else is going to fall flat. And when I was your age, where are my 7th graders at? 7th graders. When I was your age, when I was your age, Jesus grabbed my heart like crazy. That's why I believe right now, today, you need to hear that unless you say, Jesus, you're my hope, everything else is going to fall flat. So today our big idea is this. Hope is a person. Hope is a person. I'm going to tie my shoe real quick because I stepped on it. Look at your neighbor and say, hope is a person.
Hope is a person.
Look at the person on the other side, say it. Now look at the person on the other side, say it. Now say it with an accent. Hope is a person. Okay, and here's our verse for the series. Check this out. Junior highers, check this out. We have it coming up on the screen. Romans 5:5. And this hope will not lead to disappointment. Who's been disappointed before?
Yep.
Who's been disappointed before? Okay, and who's like hoped for something and it didn't happen? Like you wanted a Christmas present, it didn't happen. You wanted your friends to like really be cool with you and they weren't cool with you. Those things are disappointments. And here's what I believe. Here's what I believe, guys. Jesus will never be a disappointment. If you hope in Jesus, he'll never be a disappointment. It says, for we know how dearly God loves us because he has given us the Holy Spirit to fill our hearts with his love. Who had Thanksgiving this last Thursday? A week ago, who had Thanksgiving? Who didn't have Thanksgiving?
About a week ago.
I'm sad. Okay, another question for you. At Thanksgiving, who had to sit at the kiddie table? Anybody? Who has kiddie table? Okay, I grew up in a family with 3 older brothers and a little sister, and then I had tons of cousins, and we all got together, like 40 people at Thanksgiving, and so there were like adult tables, and there were like middle kid tables, and there were like little kid tables, and I was always at the little kid table. Now the worst part about Thanksgiving is sitting at the little kid table, because everybody else was like moving up, and I was like one of the younger, but I was the oldest boy, so everybody below me was a girl. And they were like 4 years younger than me, and so they're like, we want to talk about Barbies. And I'm like, I'm 25. They're like, we're 21. I'm like, it's still weird. And so we get to this point where I'm like trying to move. My whole entire hope and dream for Thanksgiving is to get to the adult table. Fancy. Like, that's my goal. And so I'm sitting there, I'm like, I want to get to the adult table. And so I'm sitting there, and the funny thing about moving up to the adult table is it's weird, because like, you move up to the adult table when people like, can't make it that year, when people can't come, or when somebody dies. It's like, great Uncle Steve died. That's a bummer, but I'm at the adult table. All right? It's like a weird moment. And the first thing I learned when I went to the adult table was that it was kind of lame. Like, they talk about politics and financial investment, and they're talking about like all these sad things, retirement, 401k plans, dental insurance. I'm like, I don't care. I want to eat food that's going to make me go to the dentist because it's so sweet and yummy, and I get a cavity, and I don't care. Like, you're going to pay for it. That was my goal. And so I got to the adult table, and like, it's not all it cracked up to be. And I think sometimes, like, our hopes, we want to get somewhere, and it's not going to be all it's cracked up to be. But what I love about Jesus is that he invites everybody to his table. If you look at the book of Luke, who's heard of the book of Luke before? The entire book revolves around Jesus eating food, which is how I knew Jesus was a guy. Like, I read it, I was like, oh, Jesus is a dude. He's eating food the entire time. But it's like him walking from a meal, at a meal, or going to a meal. And Jesus is hanging out with all these people. And the people around his table are like a collective. It's a weird group. Who thinks they have like weird relatives? Anybody? What I realized is when you get older, the older you get, the weirder your relatives get. Like, that's what you realize. Everybody has like a weird aunt or uncle, you know, like, they're just like awkward, and you're like, I don't want to sit by you. And they're like, do you want to know about the newest star in the galaxy? You're like, no, I don't. And then there's like the weird grandparent who's like like a bad gift giver? Anybody have a bad gift giver in their family? Like a grandma that comes like, I'm gonna give you a Thanksgiving gift. You don't get Thanksgiving gifts, grandma. It's the innards of the turkey. You're like, I don't want that. Or like the cousin that has a crush on you. You're like, that's weird. Is that just me? Yeah. Okay. My cousin Katie had a crush on me, and my brothers were like, Katie, kiss him. And I was like, gross. And it was weird. But Jesus invited like all these random people around the table. And I want to talk to you today about the people that Jesus had around the table. Because Jesus invited everybody around the table. And there's 3 people I want to focus in on today in particular. First was a guy named Thomas. And I imagine Thomas would sit right here. And Jesus said, Thomas, come sit at my table. Now, here's a couple things you need to know about Thomas. Thomas was a skeptic. Do you guys know what skeptic means? Yes. Like, he just wasn't sure. He didn't trust things very easily. So if I were like to come up to you and was like, dude, I just had the best hamburger in the world, he would be like, no, you didn't. He's that guy. You're like, okay, it was a figure of speech. He's like, I knew it. That's the type of guy Thomas was. And Thomas was funny because disciples, man, you guys got sweet nicknames if you were a disciple. There's this guy named Peter. His nickname was The Rock. Like the actor, like The Rock, the wrestler is The Rock. It's sweet. And then there's this guy named John, and John's nickname was The Lovable One. Like, how rad is that? Like, John, everybody loves you. He actually named himself the one that Jesus loves. How cool is that? What if I name myself the one that Brian loves? I'm gonna walk around, hey, who are you? I'm the one that Brian loves. Like, it's just kind of weird. But Thomas, his nickname was The Doubter. Doubting Thomas. And it's kind of funny because Thomas actually had a ton of reason to doubt. Because he's like, I'm going to follow Jesus. You know that following Jesus, that takes like a risk. That takes a lot. Because Jesus asks a lot of you. Jesus says, man, here's what I want. I want you to follow me. And sometimes that might mean you're not going to get along with your family. Sometimes that might mean that you're going to not have a home. Sometimes that might mean you don't know where your next meal is coming from. Sometimes that might mean that other people don't like you. But you need to follow me. And Thomas is like, whoa. Before I invest all of this into that, I'm going to ask some questions. And Jesus says, you're welcome to ask some questions. Come sit at the table with me. And it makes sense. Like, have you ever committed to something and you're like, I'm going to do this, and all of a sudden you're like, why did I say yes? You know what I'm talking about? Like, I'm going to go all in. You sign up for like a sports team. You're like, why did I say yes? And when I was going to college, I went to college in Los Angeles. Ever heard of it? Los Angeles? And Disneyland, and it's awesome. And so I went down to Los Angeles to the school called Biola. Say Biola, just because it's fun. Biola. Say it with an accent. Biola. Anyways, I went to Biola. And most people when they go to school, their parents go and drop them off. And my mom was like, do you want me to fly to California with you? And I looked at my mom and I was like, Mom, I'm an extrovert, which means I just like to hang out with people. I'm like, this is what's going to happen. You're going to fly down, get a rental car, drive me to school, and I'm going to say, bye, Mom. I don't want you there. And so I'm like, Mom, you stay here, you save your money, you don't waste it. And so she's like, oh, my baby boy. And I was like, yeah. And so I got on the plane, I got in the van, I got the van all the way to the school, I got to the school, got dropped off, and I was like, uh-oh. Like, I'm here. I'm stuck, Mom's not here. She can't drive me home, she can't fly me home. I'm far from In-N-Out Burger. Like, there's all these little issues that I have, and I'm sitting there going, what if everybody's weird? What if they all smell like feet? Like, what if my roommate listens to heavy metal music? I don't like heavy metal. What if he's a ballerina? That's even worse. And like, I'm trying to like balance through all these things, and I'm there, and I'm stuck, and I'm like, I paid $16,000 to go to school here for 4 months. I'm committed. And there's just a moment where I was like, I don't know what to do. And sometimes I think like with Jesus, and like we get to this point where like, Jesus, you're asking a lot of me. Do you know that Jesus asks you to fully invest in Him first? As a junior hire, your job is to say, Jesus, you're number one. So that means the friends that I make are going to reflect that. The things that I do are going to reflect that. The things that I talk about are going to reflect that. Like, that takes a lot. And Thomas had a hard time with that. And then Jesus went and died. Can you imagine Thomas as like just naturally like, I don't know about this. Like sees Jesus and he sees him die and he's like, crap. Everything I invested in just went away. And I think sometimes when we come to Jesus, and what you're going to realize as you get older, and maybe even right now, you come and sometimes you have doubts. Like, is God even real? Why do bad things happen to good people? Why did my parents get divorced? In 7th grade, my parents got divorced. So I asked the question, why did my parents get divorced? Why are there all these issues in the world? Why can't people just get along? And we have all these questions and all these doubts and all these worries, and Jesus says, man, just come to the table. Come sit at the table. Come rest with me, come be here. And what I love about Jesus is he's not afraid of it. See, Thomas heard from the other disciples that Jesus rose from the dead. Thomas was like, I'm not going to believe you unless I see him, unless I put my hands where the nails went through his hands, and I put my hand in his side. Like, I'm not going to believe you unless it's like that tangible. And what I love is Jesus shows up to Thomas in the middle of his doubt, in the middle of his worries, in the middle of his questions, in the middle of everything not making sense, and he goes, hey, I know it doesn't make sense, but put your hand in my hand. Put your hand in my side. Feel the wounds. And I want you to know, if you're here and you have questions and like your whole family believes in Jesus, but you're like, I don't know if I get it yet. Jesus isn't afraid of your questions. Never just don't ask questions because you're afraid of what people will think. Ask the questions. Jesus says, come sit at the table and ask the questions. The next guy, his name's Simon. His nickname was the Zealot. Anybody know what a zealot is? Have you ever heard that? A zealot was like somebody who was so patriotic about the nation of Israel and about them being like the people of God. Have you ever met somebody who's patriotic, like just wears flags and stuff? And yeah, anybody weird? Okay, but zealot, we have this word that comes from zealot that's called zeal. Zeal means you have this excitement, this passion, this just vigor for life. And there's this guy named Simon. He's a zealot. Here's what zeal means. Zeal is like how you feel about the Seahawks. Like, who loves the Seahawks in here? Yeah, you see, that's zeal. Like, you are committed, you're excited, you're going to do something about it. Who loves the Hunger Games? Who loves the Hunger Games? That's zeal. Like, you're just stoked. You're Hunger Games! Like a Katniss. Question for the ladies in here. Guys, you can't answer this. Peta or Gail? Gail. You see, that is zeal. That is zeal. Like, you have these questions. Who loves the Cougars? Anybody love the Cougars in here? Like, WSU? Who loves the Huskies? Who thinks we shouldn't vote for Oregon? Yeah. Yeah, okay. See, that's zeal, that's passion. Like, there are things that just get you, like, so excited in life. You're like, woo! Like, who's your favorite Disney princess? On 3. 1, 2, 3, yell. Go. I heard Jasmine and Ariel. Who's your favorite superhero? 1, 2, 3. Okay. See? That's zeal. That's something that you're excited about. That's something you're committed to. Now, a lot of us, we have zealous friends. I had this friend named Justin French. Justin French works at a store with me called Jamba Juice. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. I used to make smoothies for a living. And Justin came in one day, he's like, you know what I'm going to do? Tomorrow, I'm going to bring a super soaker and clean the store with it. I was like, yes. Yes, let's do that. And then like 2 weeks later, he came up to me, he's like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to move to San Diego. I was like, what? He was gone in 2 weeks. He just got excited about things. He's like, I'm going to do it. One time, Justin came up to me, and he said this. He's like, David, there's bad stuff going on in Uganda. I'm going to go barefoot for a month to raise awareness. I was like, okay. He's like, you want to go too? It's like, oh. He's like, here's everything you need to know. All of a sudden, I was like, I'm going to go barefoot for a month. And so I take out my shoes, and like I spend a day walking around. The next day, it snows. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go barefoot for this month, but not today. It's cold. And Justin's like, David, they don't have that choice in Uganda. I'm like, it doesn't snow in Uganda. And so like, I'm walking around barefoot except for when it snows. And then like the next day, I'm like going into the public bathroom barefoot. And after going in once, I'm like, hey, so Justin, I'm going to go barefoot everywhere except for if it snows and I'm in a public bathroom. Is that okay? He's like, David, in Uganda, they go barefoot in public bathrooms. I'm like, yeah, but I'm not going to go barefoot in public bathrooms, okay? And then, like, the next day, I'm like, you know what? I want to be respectful of my classmates in school, so at school, I'm going to wear shoes. And I tell Justin, she's like, David, they don't wear shoes in school in Uganda. Like, he's so zealous about it. I'm like, yeah, but I'm going to wear shoes in school in America. And then eventually I got to the point where I'm like, Justin, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go barefoot at home and raise awareness in my family. Everywhere else, I'm going to wear my shoes. Like, he just got so zealous and excited about everything. And I was like, you know what? I might not be there. And some of you guys are here, and that's you. Right here, the zealous people got to sit at the table with Jesus. People who just had excitement. People who had passion. Like, there's things you love. There's TV shows you love. There's people you love. There's sports you love. There's things you want to do. There's things you're passionate about. You might be that person that always has energy and always has ideas and always is excited about things. And Jesus says to you, you can come and sit at the table with all your zeal. And here's what I want to tell you. Junior hires, no matter how excited you are about something, if you don't go, Jesus, I want to be excited about you first, whatever you're excited about is going to fail. Here's what I've seen happen too many times with junior hires, and by the time you're a high schooler, you're frustrated because this has happened too many times. You get really excited about something, and then it fails, and you go and you get really excited about the next thing, and it fails, and you go and get really excited about the next thing, and it fails, then all of a sudden you're like afraid to get excited about things because you're afraid to fail. And instead of being like super excited and happy, you get bitter and frustrated. And I don't want that to happen to you. And I want you guys to be people that do amazing things. I want you guys to be people that by the time you get to high school, your entire high school knows about Jesus because of the way you live. But it's not going to happen unless you go, Jesus, before I hope for something, I'm going to hope in you. You can sit at the table with all your excitement. And here's the last one I want to tell you about. I just want you to bring it in real quick for this one. Right here, Jesus runs into this guy. Bible doesn't give him a name. It just says he's a paralyzed guy who lives beside this pool. And he's this paralyzed guy who his goal is to get healed. And he's living by this pool. And the theory of the day is that at some points, God stirs up the water. And if the first person who gets into the water gets healed. And so there's all these sick people that are living by this pool. And all they want to do is get into the pool. Because they think if they get into the water, if they get there, they're going to get healed. And I think about this third person that Jesus comes, and I love it because Jesus walks straight up to this paralyzed guy and he sits down with him, and he's just wrestling with him. And Jesus would invite him to this table every time because Jesus welcomes the broken. Jesus welcomes the broken. And some of you guys are in here like, I get that, but David, I'm not paralyzed. Like, that's like not my issue. And I think you can be broken by two things. I think you can be broken by sin. I think there's people in here that you're doing things that literally just separate you from God. That God's like, that's not for you. That's not what I have planned for you. That's not what I want for you. That's not what I desire for you. Some of you guys are looking at stuff that you shouldn't be looking at. Some of you guys, I had a junior high girl come up to me yesterday after I talked and said, I've been cutting. Like, I've just been hurting myself. And I want to be like, no, that's not what it's about. Like, that's not what we want. That's sin that breaks you from God. That's dealing with things and not saying, Jesus, I trust you. Some of you guys are here and you gossip and you say mean things. Some of you guys are here and you act one way at church and you act one way at school. And there's all these things and you're broken by sin. Others of you guys are here and you're broken by situation. Like, there's things that are going on in your life. There's things that are hurting in your life. Your parents are divorced. There's abuse. Your friends aren't being cool. You broke up with somebody. Your grades aren't going well. Like, there's things and there's situations in your life that might be out of your control that are hurting you and breaking you. And I want you to know, if that's you, if you're like, I'm here, and yeah, David, I'm in junior high, but man, I got some hurts, and I've got some issues, and my family doesn't get along, or I'm not doing well right now. Jesus says, come sit at the table. I'm not afraid of it. And the reason I picked the story of the guy by the pool is for a couple reasons. One, because he knew where he needed to be, he just didn't know how to get there. Right? He's like, I need to be in the water. I just don't know how to get there. And Jesus is like, you're hoping for something, but right in front of you is something you can hope in. And I want you to know, if you're hurting, if you're broken, if there's sin or situation in your life that's just not the way it's supposed to be, Jesus says this. He says, I know you have these things that you want to go and do, but before you can go and try to make yourself well, come talk to me because I'm going to make you well. And Jesus looks at the guy. I love it. He asks him this question. He goes, do you want to be made well? I think there's some people, in this room, I believe this, that there's a sin or a situation or something going on in your life, and Jesus just wants to look at you and go, do you want to be made well? I don't want you to carry this anymore. I don't want you to have to deal with this anymore. And I love that Jesus just comes and he sits him right here at the table. So I'm going to invite the band up right now. And as I do that, I just want to tell you guys, one, you are so loved. We are so thankful that you're here. And maybe you're here and you're the doubter. And you got questions. You know who's a great person to talk to about that? Your group leader. Go to them and be like, if the person I am at the table is I'm the doubter. I have all these questions and these issues and these worries, and I'm skeptical and I don't trust, and my parents all believe, but I don't believe, or my friend brought me and I'm just not sure about it. Maybe that's you. Maybe you're here and you're zealous. You're just excited about everything in life. You're so excited. You're like, I believe that everything's good, but you're missing the Jesus part of it. And I want to tell you that if you're missing the Jesus part of it, everything in your entire life is going to fall flat at some point in time because Jesus is the hope of the world. And third, right here, maybe you're broken. Maybe you're here and there's a hurt, a sin, or a situation. There's somebody here that says, it's just not right. And I know what I need to do, but I don't know how to get there. And I want to say, be a person that goes to your leader and says, I need you more than you think I do. I am broken. I need to talk to you. So will you guys stand up with me? We're going to pray real quick and sing a song.